I feel like I haven't left from yesterday and last night with all that tequila. So if you see me like staggering a little bit, we all were there. So we're all together. So it's not just me. But I want to just give you a little bit of brief introduction. Is this lecture I see the tequila's kicking in already. You know, this lecture is I was asked when I got out of film school. At the TISH program, after all I went to the undergrad at Goodman Theater. It was an elite directing school, and then I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and then my film process was the TISH program at NYU. But when I got out of NYU, you know, you're thinking you're a director, you think you had your writer or whatever, an actor, and then all of a sudden you get out, you graduate, and you're out, and the door's closed, and you want to just go, let me back in, but you don't know what to do. You have to learn your way. They don't teach, when I was there, I think nowadays it's getting a little bit better, but in universities, they don't teach you the real world. They don't teach you, don't prepare you for that. And whether you major in whatever category in the department. So then at one time, I came up, I had to find my way. So as a PA, I worked as a PA, I had to find my way, but I got lucky, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. But then I was asked by another friend of mine, who's a very well-known documentary maker, and he was teaching the grad class at Columbia University. So he said, well, can you come and speak to the class so that, you know, just give them inspiration? And I was like nervous. I was like, and I've been working a few years already in the real world now, and I was nervous, and I went up there, and I said, okay, oh my God, they're gonna know more than me, they're grad, you know, I'm gonna. So I go in front of this class, and I said one thing that I learned on set, and all of them looked, because they didn't teach us that. Something so simple that would save your life on a film set, they didn't teach us that, and then I locked in. I said, oh, I got you now. I got it. And then I started talking that. And then they were so moved by that. And then my whole lecture I've been giving away for the last couple, 20 years, and I've been teaching at, master programs at Columbia, Harvard, whatever, wherever film festival, Sundance, whatever. And this whole thing developed. But it's not about me up here talking about who I am. I want to throw it out to you guys as Q&A, production questions that you, and the advantage that I have is you guys want to be here. Okay, I don't have to deal with people who, like in high school or college, that don't want to be there, just taking it for elected. No, you guys want to be here, so I want to share it with you. It could be writing, directing, producing, ADing, distribution, contracts. I learned how to do contracts. I learned how to do, which saved my life. And we'll get into more in depth in that. And if I don't, please remind me, because it's very, very important. And so I want to throw that out to you. So this is about you guys and about Q&A with you guys. Any questions you have regarding production, but keep it within production, any category. Anything. And if I don't know, I'm going to go, Steve, what do you think? You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, so that's for you to understand, whether it's sound, whether it's, and now you got to remember, when there was no computers with us. Man, we shot our thesis in film. We had a low film, we had a shoot film, we had a 60, which is the best, and I still do that. And I gave a lecture at another festival this past month, and one of you guys asked me, well, what do you do if something breaks down? I said, what? I'm thinking, what a stupid question. But it's not. It's a real good question, because I said, you're right. Because nowadays, we have digital cameras, we have the video village, you're watching everything, you got the clamshell up in the camera, you got all this here, all this equipment to help you. They're tools, and they're very helpful. Don't get me wrong, it's very helpful. And I use them once in a while. But you'll never, ever see me on a set at Video Village. Watching the monitor and watching it. If I do go there, I'm looking at what's behind them. I know what's there. I put them there. I'm going to look what's behind the details. That's how I set my shots up. It's what's there. It's the depth. And what happens is I said to him, I thought about it on stage. I said, you know what I do? I trust this. I trust my eye. That's how we were trained. And when we were trained, the camera's here. The director's next to the camera. Maybe I'll take a look in to set up the shot. We have a DP. And we work out the shot together. And then he or she goes to the gaffer. And then I could tell you a light temperature right now on a set. I could tell you the temperature on it. But by mastering it. I don't mean by the first day out, but mastering it. But I always go next to camera. I'm always at it because I trust this. I don't trust anything. And it happened to me one time on set. Something did break down. And the DP, I was giving him his break. and it was a feature film. And he was like, oh, how are we going to tell Frank? And I told him, make sure that's working. He didn't do a checkout, a proper checkout, camera checkout. And I that's fine, I don't need it. And he goes, what? I go, I'm right here. Let's just do it. I'm right there. Trust this and trust this. And then add common sense to that. You're ready to work. Okay. But I want to show you a trailer of The Believer. I'm the one who started Ryan Gosling's career. I want to show you that, and then we're going to talk about this afterwards. Okay. So let me show you. We're going to start that. And is there anybody want to ask any questions now or anything like that, or you got? I'll wait till these people sit down. Yep. All right, so let's show the trailer, and this is the trailer, and then we're going to get into the production headaches. The production, I'm not looking for the glamour or pat in the back. The production headaches, and this was a big production headache, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so watch the trailer, and then we'll get into the class, okay?
Hello?
Daniel Phelan.
Sir?
I'm a reporter.
Reporter for who?
New York Times.
People hate Jews, do you agree? The very word makes their skin crawl. They undermine traditional life, and they deracinate society. You can take the greatest Jewish minds ever. Marx, Freud, Einstein. What have they given us? Communism, infantile sexuality, and the atom bomb.
Dang, this is great. But how can you believe all of this when you're a Jew yourself?
You're not like the others, are you? I want you to teach it to me.
Why?
They're your enemy.
You want to know the real reason why we hate them? Because they exist. We have all the reasons we need in 3 simple letters. J-E-W. Jew. You say it 1,000,000 times, it's the only word that never loses its meaning.
How can you wear that thing? Do you know what it means to your people?
They're not my people. Hit me! Hit me, please!
Are you out of your mind?
You really want to kill Jews? You want to kill me?
We're the chosen people. Isn't that right, Daniel?
That's the trailer. Now, the whole purpose of this class is production headaches. What happened with that? Okay, so I was working at the studio at the time, and I was assigned to another project, and I won't say the name of it because it was terrible, and I didn't want to be on it. I said, oh, God, please. And it was all improv. And I said, are you kidding me? And top stars. And I said, I went to I was the executive, and I went to my boss, and I said, listen, get me off of this film. Get me off of it. I don't want, because they're going to blame me. I knew they were going to blame me because it was falling apart. I knew it. And they go, well, we got this film called The Believer. You know, I said, I'll take it. It's in New York City, I'll take it. And I met with the director, Henry Beat, and we got it off very well. Now, I'm assigned to the studios, and they said the first thing is fire his producer. I want you to fire him because he lied to us saying he did this, he did that, he did this, and he did nothing, and he's not ready for this. And I went there, and I met him, and he's trying to act cocky, a little bit cocky. And I said, dude, you don't have no idea who I am, do you? You know, I said to the studio, I said, I can work with him. Let me guide him through. We don't need to cause headaches. We don't need to cause friction because the director liked him. I said, let me work with him, okay? But we established the ground rules. You know, who's the boss, who's that kind of stuff. And so we went in to production. Now you saw Teresa Russell as the star. Originally, we had Isabella Rossellini, okay? The movie of The Believer was about a Jewish kid who lost his faith and joined a neo-Nazi group in contemporary times. And through that journey, he regained his faith. A little bit too late, okay? But that's what it's really about. Henry B., the director, got this from a little article on the New York Times. And Henry Bean, if you look him up, he was a writer for Desperate Seeking Susan, Basic Instinct, and he got money to do Basic Instinct 2, so he started financing this. But it grew too big, and that's where we came in, okay, with bigger money. Now, we went through the casting process, and Ryan Gosling came in. He was coming off of Young Hercules. He was coming off of Disney channels and stuff like that. And everyone was thinking he's not a neo-Nazi. And he came in and he blew us away as a director or producer. And we're watching him, and he came in because he really wanted it. And he came in, and he had long blonde hair from Young Hercules. And I walked up to him after. I said, we're going to call you back, but I want you to know this is a skinhead movie. So I just want you to be aware of that. Called him back, shaved it all off. Took the risk from his contract for Young Hercules, shaved it off. And then he came back. And we went, oh, God, we fell in love with him right from the beginning. And I'm known for giving people their breaks, whether it's a DP, a actor, writer, director, myself, And so he came in, and the studio said, no way. He's Hercules, he's Disney, he's not, and we fought him. We fought the studio. Now, this is a producer protecting the project. That was my job. And that's where Henry and I even grew tighter. So we grew very tight, and we fought for him. We had a fight for Ryan Gosling. Okay, now remember, this is back then. You know nothing how it's going to come out. It's his beginning, my beginning, whatever. And they fought us all the way to the point where we almost walked away and said, forget it, we're going to go somewhere else. And I took the risk to say, I'm leaving, I'm staying with the project. It's my project, I'm staying with it. So they agreed, we came to a compromise, we're going to cut $1 million off your budget, you go with it. I said, fine. Everybody was happy. Billy's our star, but my leverage was I got Billy Zane. He was coming off of Titanic. So that was our star, and he was wonderful. And my daughter was there too. I mean, this is my daughter. She has a class after this called the anime class. She's teaching that. But she was there at 8 years old, and I brought her on set, and she's like, we all went to see the Titanic, and Billy came down. I said, Billy, this is my daughter. He goes, well, how you doing, lovely? And she goes, I'm never going to wash this hand again. Yesterday. And then Ryan and I, we're still great friends, and so is Billy Zane and stuff. So anyway, we're rehearsing, and everything's going great. I'm like, boom, 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 pre-production. I'm a strong believer in pre-production. Pre-production is your saving grace, okay? If somebody says, oh, I'm going to give you 2 weeks production, I'll say, no, I'm going to need 4, 6, 8 weeks. Because you have no idea. Everybody thinks shooting is it. It's not that, man. Production is easy. I've learned, when I was young, like everybody else shooting, I would say, oh, I'm on the set, I'm shooting. Oh, I wanted the biggest camera so everybody could see I'm working with a big camera, But it's pre-production, organizing. We had rehearsals, we had ensembleness, we had a great cast. And then 7 weeks later after prep, I said, okay, guys, I told my team just like this. You got to remember, when I'm on a set, this is the size crew. This is the crew that I have to deal with, not just one person, not just one actor. As a job, as my producer or director, I have to deal with the sound man, I have to deal with the sound girl, I have to deal with this costume designer, and then go deal with a crazy actor. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, Billy, so what happened, Friday came, Monday we were going to start shooting. We had a weekend. I told my staff, I said, listen, this is going to be our last weekend, so go out and enjoy it, because we're going to be hitting the street. We're going to be a 7 or 8 week shoot, nonstop, and about 5 days work week. And so my location manager took a camping trip. Everybody went away, and I'm at a bar that night with my assistant, and we're drinking, we're toasting, saying, well, I think we got it. It's not over yet, but we got through pre-production. I get a call from the studio, and they said, Isabella Rossellini just dropped out. I said, what are you talking about? I thought they were joking. I said, what the hell are you talking about? I said, we need her. We scheduled everything around her and Billy Zane. We're shooting next month. The first 2 weeks was Billy Zane and Teresa Russell. And they go, well, she all of a sudden feels like her role was the mother of the Nazi party. After a month rehearsal, she decides, well, I don't want to be seen as that to the audience, to the world. I said, you had the script for a month. Now you're telling us this? And so I said to the studio, I said, listen, that's on you guys. I said, you guys got to find me somebody else now. And I said, and they go, push the production 1 week. Actually, it was 1.5 weeks. So push your production. We'll get you somebody. And I said, okay, that's your job. I'm going to push everything. Now, I'm going home, and I'm like, oh, God damn. And we're drinking. I said, we're just toasting. And I'm going like, well, I guess that's that. No, what I did is what, I drank more. But the thing is, so they said we got Teresa, within a week they said we got Teresa Russell. I said, fine. Henry approved it. He said, I love her, man. I know her. I love her. Let's bring her in. She knew her lines that week, 5 days later, she knew everything. And it's a big role. She knew the model, but Billy Zane didn't know his lines. He was there for 6 weeks, you know. And the thing is, and I love Billy. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, so she came in. She was professional. And now you think, okay, they solved the problem. Where's the problem now, from production end? We had our locations locked in, paid for that first 2 weeks, which meant we went back to it was a brownstone. We were shooting that scene in a brownstone. We lost the brownstone because the owner says, no, I have a big bar mitzvah coming in. You guys can't be here. And we lost every single location. Every single location. It was like a domino effect. But we had to go out and shoot. And this is where the studio said they didn't want the other guy because he wasn't experienced. What I realized, and I'll get into that later about what I learned from that. And so every location we lost. So what do? You're on set, you have the actors, you have the director, and they're all looking at you. And I called the studio, I said, listen, I need more money. I'm gonna put a second location team on. And I said, so I had 2 location teams on, full location manager. And one was out finding our next location. We're gonna shoot that day, the next day, while one was on set taking care of our daily situation. Okay? And it was a headache. Every single day we didn't know where we were gonna shoot. And things popped up, and we were just like, bam, bam, bam. And I all those scenes you saw, the fight, the subway scenes, I'm shooting second unit director. I directed those scenes, the fight scene, the subway scenes, when he's kicking the guy, I directed all that stuff. So I had to do all that stuff on top of that. And I had a second unit for that as well. So we lost all our locations. So we had to scramble. And I remember one time, the only time I yelled and snapped at Henry Bean, because the one scene there was like kind of like an AA meeting type location, like this. Anything like this could have worked. And the location man said, listen, we got to make, and then now you have the unions on your ass. And the unions are calling up saying, you got to let the people know we're going to shoot tomorrow by 5 o'clock. You got to let our actors know. And so by 5 o'clock each day, we had to have a location. Because otherwise we were lost a day. Okay? Now and this is a 35-day shoot Monday through Friday. Okay? Every day like that. So we lost all the locations, and then I forgot what I was going to say. No, but it's like, so we lost locations, and then Teresa Russell came up, and we started shooting and stuff like that. And every day we had a scene where it was like an AA meeting, and Henry and the location manager came in with 3 photos. Said, here, pick your choice. And Henry goes, well, I don't like any of them. I went, pick one. Just pick one. It's just a room. Just pick one. And we did, and we shot it. Now, and then that's how the entire production went. That's how the entire production went every day. And every day I'm going like, oh, my God. No sleep, nothing like that going on. And that was just part of the problem. Then everything else pops in. You have the crew overtime. You have this going on. This is all going on. And then we finally finished it. We finished the film, and then it won Sundance. It won the Berlin Film Festival. It won on all these festivals, and the studio that didn't want Ryan Gosling hired him for his next movie, which is Murder by Number and Notebook. And Notebook is what's kicked over the edge, and they're the ones who didn't want him. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Billy Zane was brilliant, but I'm losing my chain of thought here. But the thing is, well, but so anyway, so we're there, and then it won Sundance, it won all these awards, and then we won Sundance, and I went out to the party at Sundance after party, and I'm with Ryan, I'm with all the actors, and we're celebrating. We won, we're celebrating like crazy, and we're at the bar, and we're talking about it, and I go, yeah, you remember when that time when Teresa and them, when Isabella Rossellini bailed out, and they go, the actors looked at me and go, no, we didn't know any of that was happening. We didn't know, because as a producer and as a production team, we kept it away from them. I told Henry, you shoot, I'll take care of your back end. And we didn't know we were going to shoot every day. And we kept it away from the creative team. And that's your job. You're protecting the production. You're protecting the people. And I looked at them and and they go, what? And they said, well, tell me, what happened? I said, you know what? I'm going to save that for myself. I never told them. I never told them that. And the point of that, now what The Believer did for all of us for that, it made Ryan Gosling a star. It was Henry B's directorial debut as well, and because he was coming off as a writer. And for me, I was playing around in the smaller projects. It put me up to the majors, and it was beneficial for all of us. And that's what we got from it. I didn't care about the pay, but you know what the trick was? I was ready. I was ready. And that's why they said get rid of that other guy. Was the young kid would have blown it apart. He wouldn't know what to do because he wasn't ready. Not that he wasn't good. It was that he wasn't ready. I was ready because through all my experiences, I was ready to be thrown into that production, and I just took it over. And when I took it over, I just said, it made me step up, and it made me work. And I protected the team, I protected the crew, and I protected the production. And even in the editing, in the editing room, we said, no, let's go with this, let's go with that. So that's your job as well. And that's how I formed this whole lecture when I give it around the country, is the headaches of production. That's what happens every day on a set. It's, so it's your job, and now it's not the crew's job to say, oh, what are we going to do? They don't care, they're going to get paid. If I have somebody there, if I'm not shooting because this person's not around or something, I'm not going to stop. If I do, you guys are still going to get paid, And then and you see these people who don't, they're inexperienced people who just think they're directors and they go, let's wait for the sun. No. Guess what? That scene takes place at night right now, So it's that kind of a thinking. And I came up the roots in the AD department, a PA, out of school, found my path. I knew I didn't want to work in a restaurant, so I said, I'm going to be around it. I want to be around it. So I got in like you got, anybody else, PA. I worked as a PA. And then I graduated to AD department, which I love, because I wanted to stay in production. But my goal was always producing and directing, writing, and all that kind of stuff. That was my theater background. So I'm coming off a big theater background. I was on Broadway with a show called Nine, with Raul Julia, which was the first, it ran 8 seasons on Broadway. And I was a working kid. I didn't have anything creative to do with it. They just took me along because I was with them the whole time, sweeping floors, getting a light, making sure they had coffee, doing this, doing that. And I was there for 2 years as that was in workshop. Finally got the money. Tommy Toon came in to direct it. Mario Ferrati was my connection, and Dan Lorio was also. And it went 8 seasons on Broadway. That paid for and they said, we're not going to give you points. We're not going to give you money. We're going to give you points, which back then was good. And I said, fine, I don't care. I was a young kid. I'll do anything. I don't care. I'm just glad to be here. On Broadway? Are you kidding me? That show ran 8 seasons on Broadway. By the time I got out of that, that's what paid for my NYU film school. When I left NYU, I had no debt. But it was from working, taking care of you. You need that, But what I learned how I did that was being humble. Let go of that ego. Let go of that ego. And I don't care who you are. If you forget where you came from, you're lost, man. That's what happens when you ever see a star or a big director or businessman. All of a sudden they get in trouble. They find God all of a sudden. It's like because they forget where they come from. They forget where they come from. So I'll tell you another story before we get into Q&A. Is then I got into the AD department. My first job as a second AD with no computers at the time. We did everything by hand, call sheets, pencils, and you think you're on the set. I was in the trailer the whole time with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and the trailer. Okay, Frank, change that. Okay, I'm changing that. But I wanted to be there. I was the first one on set. I was the last to leave. I didn't care. I wanted it that bad. And I learned from the best. And I stayed away from the people who tried to bring me down. That's a key. When I hire someone, and Eric and I will be working together hopefully, and when I hire someone who I know I know I'm going to fall in that trench. I know production like the back of my hand. But I want somebody there to say, hey, Frank, come on, let me help you out. 9 times out of 10, your crew will go, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. Let's throw some dirt on him, you know? And you have to climb out yourself. But that's how I learned to staff myself. I want people around who are going to support me, who's going to want to be there, because I want it that bad. And the other question is, if you don't love this business, stay away from it, man. That's all you really have. You have to love, you have to have the want. I was the first on the set, I was the last to leave. I didn't care, I worked 17-hour days. I fired a kid last year on a film. We're doing a big production. It's just as crazy as I just explained. And I get a call, and my assistant called me up and said, there's a mother on the phone. I said, okay, hello, yeah, what's up? And I thought somebody got hurt, okay? And I'm a big safety guy. I'm very big on safety and due diligence, and we'll get into that. And the mother's going, well, you know, my son's not, I said, and he was in the art department when I said, I don't know who he is, but what's the problem? And she goes, well, I think you're working him a little too hard. He's coming home, and he's coming home at night, he's tired. I went, okay, thank you. I went to that kid, and I said, you get this kid off the set. I fired that kid immediately. Because he went and told his mother. He went and told his mother that. I was on the set for 17-hour days. And you guys all who have experience, you know that because you want to be there. Time runs out on you. And to this day, I still get nervous when I'm on a set. To this day. My first day on set, I'm going like, okay, here we go. But the minute I walk in, it's my set. It's my control. I go, just like a doctor, when he walks into surgery, okay, we'll do this, do this. Now I can't do that, but I can do this. And then through my homework and through my trusting my instincts and common sense and letting my technique go and letting problems happen and adapt to them, the problems, I was able, you know, you're able to do, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. Okay? I command my set. And I don't mean that in an abusive way. I'm never abusive. I'm never a yeller. I only deal with the keys. I don't need to deal with the second, third. I only deal with them because and we all work together. And it's an ensemble. But here's a trick, and Eric knows this, and a lot of you people know this, is when you're working with a DP, how I learned to work with a DP or sound or production designer, I don't want to hear your vision. I don't want to hear your interpretation of it. I want to know that you can execute the vision that I am going for. If you can't do that, then you're probably for the wrong position or the wrong job. Okay? And I'm going to go, because it's my vision, it's your vision. You don't want, I've seen it, so happens, I've seen some people, I'm using DPs as an example, it's not just DPs, but DPs will come in with a young director who doesn't know what he's doing, or she doesn't know what she's doing, bam, they take over. All of a sudden, they're doing, no, we'll shoot it like this, we'll shoot it like that, we'll shoot it like that. They take it over. That's not me, man. I don't want that. But they think, oh, and I hear them going, oh, thank God you were here. Oh, man, you saved my ass. Well, guess whose shoot it is? Guess who directed that? You know, and then you have the actor's problem as well on top of that. If you lose respect on your set, and I'm talking about all these people on my set, if I lose respect on you guys will eat me alive. I don't care what experience I have. And the biggest thing about that was then I got music videos started coming in the 80s. And I was working with Scorsese on Michael Jackson's Egyptian, when he was Egyptian, whatever that song was, whatever. I wasn't that keen on music videos, but it was Michael Jackson was big. He had a song about him being an Egyptian. He was all dressed up. It was like $1 billion music video, and he had Egyptian costumes on. We had big stars on it. Michael Jackson was going, and I was the first AD, so I moved up by then, and I was Scorsese's first AD. And then we get on set, and Martin, he talks faster than I do. More spit comes out of his mouth than mine. So, and he goes, where's Michael? And I said, let me find out for you. So I go, where's Michael at? And they go, everybody looked at me like this. I said, where's Michael at? And they go, he's in the bath, he's upstairs taking an avian bath. That's when they had avian water. So he used to have people pour it in the bathtub, and he would take an avian bath. I said, get the hell out of here, man. What the hell are you talking about? He should have taken that bath last night, And I said, what are you talking about? I walk in, I'm knocking the door. Hello? I said, Michael, I'm taking my bath now. I'm going, are you, wait. I said, how am I going to tell Martin Scorsese that? So I went to Martin and I told him. And we both started laughing. He goes, that little prick, You know, he goes, that little prick. You know, he goes, that little fucking prick. And he goes, and then you know what he did? And everybody's like you guys. Everybody's standing around. What are you going to do? Now, everybody had respect for Scorsese, of course. Don't get me wrong. He never lost command. And he goes, you know what? Fuck him. Let's start shooting something else without him. And he shot all his other stuff. And he made it around. That's how it became. I don't know if you get a chance to look at it now. It's Egyptian. And all of a sudden, all these Egyptians are in the scene. They're dancing around. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And we had, I forgot who the star was. It was something like Denzel Washington, but it wasn't. But he was like, he's the Egyptian king. We shot all that stuff. Because in a music video, you only did like you only had 1 day or 2 days to shoot it. And so we shot all that stuff. And then we're done. We're wrapping out. Michael gets out of the bathroom thinking that he, you know, or she, you know, and then he walks out and he says, oh, what's going on? You shot without me? And Martin says, we're done. You want to get in? You want to jump in? And then we shot all his numbers without anybody else there. Because then he was doing it, and we had to win fans and all that kind of stuff. And it worked out. But what would you do in that situation if you're not ready or experienced enough to do that? You don't want to sit there and complain. You don't want to sit there and blame. You don't want to sit there and say, well, we got to wait for Michael. Okay, 8 hours later. Okay, guys, now we're in overtime. No, you got to shoot, man. You got people on payroll. And you got the studio coming, or at that time it was the label. The label came down and said, what the hell's going on there? What are you going to tell the label? Oh, Michael's he's in a bath. You know, so you go, and they're going to say, they'll fire me for even telling them that. And then I'll get blamed for it. You know, so it's that kind of a situation of headaches. And you got to be ready for that. And the thing, that's what would help. I always say the believer helped me move to that level. It made me realize I was ready to play the game, the big game. Okay, I did all the horror film stuff. I did all that little stuff and a lot of independent films, which did very well. But I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. I had to keep learning and learning and learning and learning. And then that believer put me to test. I could have shied away. I could have got scared. I could have said, oh, I'm going to give me another film. But I wanted it so bad, and I love the project. You know, so what I want to do, that's what the lecture bases on. So I want to throw it back to you people of production headaches. Anything that any concerns, any questions you may have. And I love your work. I think you have a lot of good potential. And Steve, I love your work. And Eric, I love your work. Lavin, the wonderful actor over here, I love his work. So we got some good people here, okay? And you guys, I love your work as an editor on that. So, and my job, when I come here, I was here for, this is my 10th year at this festival. I was here for the first year because Lavin brought me down. Because Lavin is one of the co-founders of this festival. And him and Kurt and Bo put it together. And then Lavin said, well, my friend Frank, Lavin and I go way back to our American Academy days. And so Lavin said, I know this guy, producer, he's a good friend of mine, and let's bring him down. So I've been here since then, and I've seen it grow. And then I remember Bo saying, well, how can we develop this festival? I said, let it find its voice. Each festival is different. Let it find its voice. And that was one thing I could do because it was small. And now it grew to this, which I'm very happy for. I'm very happy for them, you know. And so I've been here a long time with this, with this festival. So let me throw it out to you guys. The questions could be production, contracts, acting, writing, directing, any AD and sound, anything like that. So, sir.
As a writer, if I was to be starting into this business, can you talk about just whether or not when do you get an LLC?
Okay, very important, very good question. See, these are things you have to learn how to do because it's called due diligence. And Randy here is a wonderful businessman here. He'll tell you stuff like that too. Simone and him, they became great friends of ours. And running a business you have to understand, this is a backstabbing business in the real world, okay? Especially at the studios. I left the studios, and I'll tell you why later. But I had a script. It was called Top of the World, and I got Matt Dillon. That's before Matt Dillon did Drugstore Cowboy, okay? And he was still coming up, you know, still considered coming up. And it was about a boxer, Down syndrome kid, and Matt Dillon was playing the boxer. And the thing about it is we had him, and then Drugstore Cowboy came out just before we signed a contract, and all of a sudden his fee went from $80,000 to $500,000. Okay, so I'm a firm believer in safety on a set. Do your due diligence. Here's what you have to know as a producer or director: is you're responsible. if somebody gets hurt, if somebody gets injured, and do your due diligence, get the insurance, get the people that you need to protect yourself. Even though the insurance company's going to go, it's going to cost you more and more and more. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? I did this film here that was featured here. It's called Awesome Gal. And we'll be shooting it in the spring here. And we did a trailer, just a trailer. We shot it in West Virginia. And it's a horse movie. And we had I had everybody professional. I had a wrangler. I had a horse wrangler. I had all these people, a horse stunt rider. And I'm talking to my insurance person. And I'm going like, yeah, it's a feature. It's only a little trailer. Okay, a trailer, what does that involve? I said, well, we're on a working farm. Oh, you have animals? You have bulls? You have cows? You have horses? Yes. He goes, okay. He goes, is there anybody riding horses? I go, yeah, but she's a professional. We have a professional rider, and we have a wrangler, and we have everything. They go, well, what happens if she falls? I said, well, she's professional. Now I'm talking. This is last year, 2 years ago, and I knew he was going to bump it up. Now my producer's hat was on. So I'm going, he goes, no, you're going to have to pay for this. And I said, okay, all right, let's do it. First take of that rider, professional rider, the scene was horse going from A to B, wranglers on the set, safety was all set around, ambulance was over there in case anybody got hurt. Professional stunt rider gets on it, but she's riding bareback. Because I needed it, because she found, it's a story about finding a horse. And she was riding bareback. And that's why we switched out the actor and put the professional. Professional. And I'm here at a camera, right here at camera, and I'm watching this horse goes by. Where's the rider? She fell off the horse. The wrangler, and she fell over the horse. The wrangler, luckily was professional enough, that's why I hired great people, to grab the reins, because the horse hooves would have moved forward and probably hit her in the head. But then she was professional, she rolled out of it. A professional. You do your due diligence. You protect your crew. You get your insurance together. And then what I always do, my company is FMC Productions. It's a managing member. But every production I do, I run off of that. So let's say Awesome Gal. It'll be Awesome Gal LLC. Eyes of the King LLC. Tryon Film Festival LLC. So all that money I raise for that goes into that specific account, because you got to account for taxes and all that kind of stuff. But what you have to set up your LLC, because when you or what's the other one? The sequel. Yeah, you can do that as well. But what it does, if something happens and you're getting sued, then they can't come at you personally. They can hit the LLC, and if everything's gone from there, there's nothing they can get. If there's something good there, you could settle it, you know. But that helps your steps of due diligence. You must protect your production, and don't think that. And I'll tell you another example. And this has happened last year, and this is deadly. This is a bad example, but true. Professional crew, top crew, friends of mine, and I was not involved with it. But they went upstate to shoot a film. They had a scene upstate in New York, and they wanted the railroad tracks. It was Amtrak line, a live line. And it was pretty much isolated. So I could see why they would want it. And they go there and they ask for permission. You get your permission for your state. You get the permits, you get all that kind of stuff. And they turn them down. The city said, yes, you can do it, but you must get permission from Amtrak. So they call up Amtrak. Amtrak reviewed everything, and they said, no, that's a live track. You're going to be there too long. They go, well, no train goes by. Yes, it does. And we don't care about that, but no. Your answer is no. Okay? So they're on set. They go, okay, fine, we'll shoot over here. They're upstate New York. They're shooting. And then the AD and the producer and the director said, you know what? Let's sneak that. There's no train coming. Let's go on the track and let's sneak it. They go on the track. And now when you're in sound, you have all this up here and everything's going by, you're looking at the scene. A train came by, they didn't know it, and it killed the camera operator. It hit the camera operator. And everybody's like, then it's like, what do you do? My God, what do you do? And the city and Amtrak said, we told you no. Guess where that AD and producer is right now? 5 years, serving 5 years in prison for vehicular manslaughter. Because that's why you do your due diligence. If they say you can't shoot there, you don't have permission, no matter how much you think you could pay, walk away. Find something else. Don't let your director, or a writer, or your creative team say, we must have this. If it's going to hurt your crew, and you got no permission to be there, I've snuck things too. Don't get me wrong. But, I was coming up learning as well. I did horror films when I first started getting bit, and I snuck things on the subway. That scene you saw on the subway, The Believer, that was a big budget film. I snuck that. But I was safety about it. What I did, but we were inside the car. So we were on the platform, we were inside the car. And because the New York subway, it cost $10,000 a day, now more. Back then it was $10,000 a day. And I said, let's sneak it. So what I did is I had a pocket full of money. I paid passengers to move out to the next car, and we controlled that car back and forth. That was safe, okay? Now, if we got caught, they could have kicked us out. And then you lose your shoot. You lose your day, possibly, or that shoot. And anyway, so you got to do your due diligence. Be smart about common sense. And I did another job. And one thing I learned is when I was up for a film in Jakarta. And I talked to a producer friend of mine who was experienced in shooting there. His name's Lloyd Kaufman, back in the days. And he said, Frank, what you want to do is get hurricane tornado insurance. Make sure you have that, but make sure you know how to get your crew out. If you're bringing a crew in, get them in, no problem. Know how to get them out. Find an escape route. And that's what we planned. And then all of a sudden, the shoot, I didn't go, but the shooting was there. The tornado came in, and then a political party came in. Changed the whole environment. His job, thank God he was experienced enough, was able to get his crew out because he had it planned. He had it thinking. Don't think it's just creative. As a producer, I just said this to somebody else. Oh, we could do this. We could shoot somebody like with guns. I said, dude, do you have any idea what would happen if somebody got hurt? You're going to go to jail. You think you're a producer? Don't claim that title unless you know what the hell you're doing. And you could protect them. So my job as the director, the actor, I'm protecting them. And I'm creating. Now when I'm directing, it's my script I'm writing. I got all that in my mind. Okay? It's not just one job. Sound man, sound girl, she's on one job. DP, one job, one department, props. I've got to put them together. Then I got to go deal with actors, and then since I'm the writer, I can kick myself in the ass. That's okay, So the thing is, so you learn how to protect that. But it's common sense. It's all common sense, okay? And does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else? And next question, please. Yes, sir.
So coming from I have very little experience as a filmmaker, and I have the ability and the options right now to focus on it, go to school full time. My struggle right now is finding which path to choose. How do I know which right for me and how?
What is your goal? What's your instincts? Where do you want to end up? What do you want to be? A director, writer, actor? What?
Acting, directing.
Okay, you could do that. And when I came to this country, I knew I wanted to direct since I was 5 years old. I knew what I'm doing now. I knew what I wanted to do, but nobody in my family had that. So I had to find my path. And I was humble enough. I was taught to be humble because you're learning. I play guitar and stuff like, and I felt like, man, my daughter will tell you this. I feel like I got stagnant in my music. I went back to take lessons at the School of Rock in New York City, and these little kids are out there going, that, and I'm going, I'm not playing with them, am I? And this is last month. I'm this size, and there's these little kids going. And I'm going like, oh God, And so the thing about that is find your path. That's an easy path to find. Okay, what is your top passion in that? Acting or directing? If you had to choose one, what would it be? At this moment.
I would probably say directing.
Okay, then find your path. What schools are you looking at?
So far, I don't know about for acting. I don't know if Full Sail offers.
Yeah. Full Sail is a great program now. I know the dean there. I got my nephew in there. And we had that conversation yesterday. That's a very good program now. Yeah. And it's in Florida, it's in Orlando.
Because I was looking at Full Sail or I think it's PVA, Palm Beach.
Oh yeah, this is my opinion. Everything I say is my opinion only. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Okay, but I would suggest, if you're going to go in those two, I would say Full Sail. Full Sail has many different programs. Have you been there? Did you visit the campus? It's like they built a movie set. And you have labs. It's financed by the WWE. You know, they do a lot of financing for that. And in return, they shoot all their commercials and all their wrestling matches there. And the kids get to participate. What I love about that, it's geared only for that. You don't have to do like math, science, and all that kind of stuff. You get your lectures out of the way, but you graduate as a BA or a graduate program. But you can continue. They have editing, acting, they have directing, they have, and you find your way there. And my nephew, he was a kind of a trouble kid, and he did 5 tours in Afghanistan, and he came back and he was kind of like a mess. But I knew him since he was a little kid. We used to go there all the time, and he always loved my family because we were in ours. He always wanted to be there since he was a kid. And he called me in Texas. I said, how you doing? You all right? He was in Texas. I was in New York. He goes, they're kicking me out of my apartment. I'm having, PTSD. And I said, where did you want to go? He goes, I want to do what you do, Uncle Frank. I'm going to be a director. I said, where do you want to live? He goes, I want to go to Orlando. I said, let me talk to the dean, my friend, to see if I can get you in. Now, he had the GI Bill, and he didn't know what to do with it. So I told him, I said, and I talked to my guy up, and they didn't really have housing then. But then they were just building it. They said, get him in, and we'll take the GI Bill, and we'll eventually get him housing there. 6 years later, he's graduating director, he's shooting stuff, and he's on his own, and he's got his mindset, and he's because that's where he wanted to be, okay? He learned directing, he learned writing, he learned editing, and he's master, he's a master editor on the computers, but his choice was DPing. And he locked in on that. And he bought his equipment, he bought this, and so he was able to find that path. You have to find your path. Now, if it's there, I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I was at the Goodman Theater in Chicago, which was an elite directing school at the time. It was the only directing school in the country. Most schools had acting, directing, acting, writing, production designing, but they really never had back then directing schools. The Goodman Theater in Chicago was that. And then from there, we were all graduating. That's my undergrad, by the way. And we were all graduating. And I said to one of my favorite professors, I said, what should I do as a director? Everybody graduated as a director, by the way, at that program. He said, you really want to do this? I said, yes. And he said, learn how to deal with the actors. He says, I can get you in, just like I said to you. I know the dean at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I can get you in, and it's a 2-year program. But you cannot tell them you're a director. You have to be an actor, because they all have their own criteria. So you have to say you're an actor, okay? And I said, oh man, 2 more years? And he goes, well, you got to do it. It's a lifelong decision. I was thinking in the moment, but now it's all coming years later, it's all a whole. So I chose the American Academy of Dramatic Arts because I was on scholarship. And they opened a new one in Pasadena, California. The main sister school was in New York City, which was there since 1893 or whatever. So famous actors, everybody went there at that time. And I chose Pasadena. But then I got there, I went through my first semester, and I got called in through the dean, and he said, we're sorry, but this is our first year here, and we're not ready to accept all the scholarship and grants yet. But our sister school in New York City will take you right away, but you got to leave this weekend. Because the fall semester was just starting. And I went, oh man, New York, I don't know. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And I flew to Chicago, I got my luggage, and my luggage was this big old like immigrant suitcase. I'm getting out of Grand Central like this. Grand Central, I'm pulling out, I'm looking at New York City, I'm going, oh, fuck, where am I? And I literally, I kid you not, I had this big old luggage. I'm like carrying it around, and I took out my wallet. I had $40 in my pocket. And I flagged a cab down. Now, this is how naive and stupid I was coming from the Midwest. I saw people flagging down taxis. They were going like this, like that, I thought they were hitchhiking. Back then, do I put my thumb out, or what do I do here? And then a cab pulled up and said, where are you going? I said, here's this address. Thank God it was right from Grand Central, it was right around the corner. So I said, take me here. He goes, okay. So I went to school there, and what the great thing about the American Academy at that time was, what I loved about it, and this is my point to you, is at that time, they don't have it anymore, but at that time, you had acting classes from 4 different teachers, different methods. It wasn't one method. It wasn't method acting. It wasn't Seinfeld, Sneisser or whatever. It was different. So whatever worked for you. If his method didn't work for me, I had this. And I connected with that. That works as part of your technique. So that was very, very helpful. So I came to New York. I go in the academy. I said, man, I have no place to stay, and I had no money. So at that time, the American Academy in New York had a night school. And for working adults. So they were open till 10 o'clock. So I would leave my day and walk around New York, figure out what New York was all about. And then I would sneak back in the academy. And I would sleep there. and I would go in the room, and I thought, wow, I can live here. I'm saying to myself, I can live here. And it was all quiet. And they had a rehearsals room, so I pulled out a blanket. And back then I used to smoke. And I had Newports, and I'm sitting there in the blanket, and I'm going like, okay, at least I'm safe for the night. And then I hear the janitor in the other room pulling a cart, emptying garbage cans. And I said, oh shit! And then every time he made a move, I made a move for the closet. He made a move, I moved the closet. He made a move, I moved the closet. I got behind the door, and I'm literally behind the door like this, and I'm watching through the crack of the door. And I'm like this, the door's halfway open, and the janitor walks in. I go, oh, and I left the cigarette in the ashtray. And he goes, you know what he said? Fucking actors. He goes, fucking actors. And he put it out, picked up my blanket, and came to the closet, and I'm going like this, and he opens the door. This is a classic story. He opened the door, throws it in, shuts the door. I go, I gotta find a place to live, So, but what I loved about the academy, besides meeting Lavin, was it had that to offer. Now the program is not like that. It's changed. It's one method. If that doesn't work for you, what are you gonna do? And you're so young, and you're so ambitious. You want it so bad. And these teachers sometimes they act like they're God. I believe in giving back. I learned how to do that through like Dan Laurie and the theater group, that people who taught me. But give it back. These people who say, you don't know what you're doing, you'll never make it. I was told I would never make it. I was one of those people because I had a bad accent. And now I didn't tell them I was directing. Of course I couldn't, because they would kick me out. Can't work outside, you had to be an actor. And so I would pretend like I was an actor, and I did Mark Anthony going, hi, how are you? Are you okay? Oh, I'm okay. And everybody's going, oh, you want to do anything else? So anyway, it was just like, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but you got to find that path. And I believe in giving back. When I had a bad accent because I couldn't speak, and now being an actor, we had a very pompous dean, headmaster. We called him the headmaster at the academy. And he was very theatrical, very pompous, very Shakespearean, and here we are coming up like this from all walks of the world. And he goes, 2 weeks before graduation, he calls me in and he goes, if I would have known you audition and you with that language, the way you speak, I would never brought you into school. You don't know how to speak, you don't know how to talk, you're a street kid. I'm going like, and this is after all this thing I'm going through. Now I knew at that point I had 2 decisions to make. I'm thinking this as he's yelling at me, telling me I'm not good enough because I can't speak English, or I can't pronounce right, and it's because of language barriers. And I said to myself, am I going to cry? Am I going to sit here and go, oh man, I'm so sorry? You know what I did? I said, I took the other path. I said, you know what? Fuck you. I said, fuck you. I said, you know what? I don't need you. Think I need you? I said, I don't need this fucking certificate. I said, by the way, I'm a fucking director. And that, I'm a director. So there, you want to see me direct? Here, watch this. Okay? Now, I got lucky out of film school. 5 years later, I get out of film school, and I got lucky because I got involved with these investors who wanted to make horror films. We did Mother's Day, Halloween, all this for $100,000, but they made millions. But we didn't see any of that. But what happened, and I'm working on a stupid movie, it's in the classic horror film Hall of Fame now. It's called Brain Damage, and it's about this kid who has this growth, and this growth is talking to him, and he's telling him what to do, and he's like taking over his mind, and he's going, well, I think you should do this, and then I think you should do this. He's going, wait, what's all about? What's that? And then the director, who was a famous horror film director, said, well, I have a great person who could do the voice. I have a great person who could do the voice. He's a great, I said, who is it? He goes, Hugh Whitfield. Hugh Whitfield was the dean at the Academy. Now I'm producing. Check this out. I'm producing. And I was at the former Italian American Playwrights with Vinny. I'm talking to Dan. And we're there, and I told Vinny that story. And he was my main mentor. He was a God sent for me. And he said, pay him back. Pay him back. Because he was so giving. Vinny was so giving. And he taught me how to give back. Okay? And he's gone now. But Hugh Whitfield, the dean that kicked me out of the school, wanted to kick me out of school, walks in. He looks at me, and as I was introduced as the producer. Oh, here's our producer, Frank Calo. He looked at me. He went, I went, oh, hi, how you doing? I walked up to privately. I didn't do it in front of everybody. I walked privately. I said, you know what, Hugh? It's my decision, but you just don't have the voice for this. You don't know how to speak. You don't know how to speak. And he looked at me and went, guess what? You just paid me back. But I didn't do it viciously. I did it because he just tried to destroy me. And that's the backstabbing of this business, okay? So find your path and stick to it because you have to want it. Because if you don't love this business, man, it's going to eat you alive. I don't care what department you're in, okay? Yes, sir. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, what pathways would you recommend, or how can you speak to a producer wanting to define distribution networks with kind of the evolving landscape of streaming? And kind of what I've learned is, regardless of what your success is in festivals, sometimes you might feel like they just want to take your ideas, your script, and buy scripts and do originals.
Right.
What's your idea?
That's kind of like two questions you asked, but I'll answer both of them. What's very important nowadays, and we're all going through this. We're all going through this right now, and I don't care what level you're at. You're all going through this. Okay, the live streaming stuff is like really, we got to figure it out, because where live streaming came in really well is live streaming was being tested. It was being tested, and then when pandemic hit, everybody was at their home. Everybody was watching movies, and so they streamed it, and they had the safety of their home, they had the TVs, whatever, and so that was a test for them, and then it worked. So now everybody wants to live stream. What it does, it takes away our residuals. I was on a plane with my friend Dane Cali from Sons of Anarchy, and we're on a plane, and he's watching on someone on the plane, Deadwood or Sons of Anarchy, and he's not getting royalties for that. Back in the day when we came up, we had the simple distribution pockets. You made your film, you go out you sell it, you got what markets, you had pre-sales, you have this, basically black and white, sales. Okay, and then the box office gross receipts was how you gauge what your film was doing back then in variety. So you watch the box office gross, like, oh, this film made $300,000 this year. This film made $3. So that's how you gauge what you were going to get. And they had to list it. It's like a stock exchange. But today it's changing so fast. I was in the days when we had just films and we had distribution. Then cable came in. I was there when HBO was going to go under. They were going to go under because they were doing their program at that time was family movies, and no one was picking it up. And then they hired a new artistic program director who came in and said, listen, I'm going to do it my way. And they go, what is your way? And he said, no high fees for actors, back in the 80s they were doing $20 million projects for stars, no names, well-known, but very good actors, good scripts, good production value, good directing, and good storytelling. And what did they come out with? Oz, Carnival, Rome, the other ones back that time. And that's what started the cable network. Now, and then that's where Amazon and then follow through. What that did for hurting, now it's just, I love that. Because then you have episodic work. And as a producer, you don't have to pay those top salaries. Now you see Nicole Kidman, Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, all coming to cable. Why? Why do you think that? Why? No, go next. Exactly right. They want that audience. That's the audience nowadays. Okay, that's just before live streaming. So they want that audience, and then what happens is, and you look what came out of that. It's good stuff. And then you don't need those $20 million salaries. Now they're getting in that edge because all the stars are coming back. Now they're getting that. But because of live streaming, the big example with live streaming is what's her name? Scarlett Johansson had that big fallout with Amazon. What was it? Disney. She did a movie, and in her contract, she said, I want 5 days on the theater. Now, 5 days in the theater, you think, well, you used to negotiate that. That's one part of your deals. You want to be shown in the theaters. Why? Because that's what gave you the market. If it was that good, and you think it was that good, you would be considered for an Oscar. You had to play 3 days in the theater or 5 days in a legit theater house before you could be even considered back then. Okay? So she says, and today's, when was that, 2 years ago? A year ago? She said, okay, give me that. So live streaming comes in. She opened that movie in the theater, but they live streamed the same night. And it killed, and her argument in court was they killed that. And she got a bigger settlement. But you know what? And I'm telling you, it was above 20 million settlement. They didn't care because live stream was bringing in a lot of freaking money. And it was being tested at that time. And that's where we're all at right now. It's the same thing with AI. The whole thing with the strike and everything like that with AI. To me, don't be afraid of it. It's a tool, just like you use movie magic scheduling, movie magic budgeting, whatever you use your tools to help us. And AI is good for medical science. My brother-in-law is a scientist. It's good for the science field, but it's not our voice. And it's not our voice. And one time, a good lawyer friend of mine said, are you familiar with script chat? I go, and this is when it first came out. I said, what is it? He goes, give me an idea for a script. I said, okay, Seinfeld, episode, 30 minutes. George walks in, bartender, Frank, eating foie gras. George hates foie gras. And he goes, what are you doing? And we put that information in. 5 minutes later, a script came out, and here's the script. Hey, George, what are you doing? Hey, Frank, what are you doing? What are you guys drinking tonight? Good, great. Here, what are you eating there? Foie gras. Oh, I can't stop. No, come on, George, half foie gras. Come on. I'm going like, whoa, shit. Don't depend on that because the mistake they made is so then they had other people like thrown in lines like, oh, what are you doing? Are you choking? Are you doing? But it was man 1, man 2, man 3. Now, as a screenwriter, you give them names. You said, Bob and Bill says, Bob says, are you choking? But the computer couldn't read that at that time. But the more you feed into it, it does now. Now it will say Bob, Jim, whatever. And I just had this experience. I'm working with this young writer, and he cheated. He put it in there. And I knew it. And I'm going, dude, I'm not writing a script on AI. You could tell it's not your voice. But the studios are. The studios are. Especially episodic TV work or whatever like that. So that's where we're all in that dilemma. Where is it going to go? Same thing with live streaming. Where is it going to go? Negotiation. When I negotiate my contracts, the carrot, you know what the carrot is? The money. Here's your carrot. I'll give you $100,000. I'll give you $500,000. That's not that carrot out of the way. What I negotiate now, I'm in that position to. Now, if I wasn't, then I had to work my way up. Of course, you do whatever you have to do. But I'm in a position to negotiate. If you're going to waste my time or my mind, I don't want to be a part of the project. Because if she's going to hire me as her director, I'm going to say, okay, this is what I think. And she goes, nah, I want it this way. No, I want it that way. You're wasting my time. You're wasting my mind. And then if it's going to be 5 weeks of that wasting my mind, you're wasting my time. And I'm in a position right now I could do my own stuff. So thank God. But I earned it. I say that in all modesty. I earned it. Okay? But I still have a hard time. The biggest thing right now, I have 5 projects ready to go. We're ready. It's the financing. And the financing, because of the strike, is kind of it holds you back. Okay? And it depends on what budget you're looking at. And I don't do $100,000 budgets and stuff like that. But we're all in there. I was in LA this past summer, and a friend of mine set me up at a meeting with these investors. I deal with entertainment hedge funds, by the way. And I go in there, I'm sitting in the lobby. Guess who walks out? Top directors, Ridley Scott, Martin Scott, everybody's out there doing a film. I'm going, oh man, these guys they're going to, what am I here for? These are top names. These are top directors I love. They're going to give it to them. So I go in, take my meeting. I said, I see Ridley Scott. They go, yeah. I said, you're not going with him? They go, he wants too much money. I said, oh, okay. Guess what I am? You know what I'm saying? So we're all in that boat right now, and we got to find our way. But don't let them take your voice. That's your craft, man. That's your work, you know, and you protect it as much as possible. Now, if you're a writer and you say, well, I don't care, I want to sell it. I want to get $200,000 for it, then that's okay. Then you made that deal, and but be responsible for it. Don't say, oh man, I could have got 500, but I only got 200,000. You know, whatever. But if that's all you want, then that's cool. But if you don't want that, you want to write it, direct it. The thing is about, I've been told so many times, okay, we love your project, we love this, we love that, but can you not direct it? And I'm going, no, that's not going to happen. But then I had to learn how to compromise that too, because I had to make a living. You know, but now my skills come from the theater, my skills come from producing, writing, directing, ADing, production. Everything comes as a whole. So I'm able to bounce on that. I don't win all the time. I get knocked down. I get fired. I get yelled at. And I yell back now. You know, I can yell back. You know, and I don't let anybody command my set. Nobody. I don't give a fuck if it's an actor, a writer, or nobody commands my set. Because if you lose respect on your set, you're toast. They're gonna eat you alive. And I don't mean being like, oh, I know everything. I know nothing. But I know my homework. And I trust my eye, and I trust my homework. And that's what I go in with. Now, when I say that, if I'm collaborating with a writer or actor, yes, that's a great back and forth. Yes, back and forth. Oh, yeah, yes, you're right. We should do this. We should do that. That's the creative process, and that's where I'm at. I love the creative process. I'm doing an off-Broadway play now. What we did, we workshopped it. We got up to a point, 2019, and we got the money to do it for off-Broadway. It was like $400,000. And then COVID hit. But we got the money just at the right time because I was able to give the money back to the investors. So they were happy because a lot of people I knew who were doing productions at the time were actually mounted. The investors lost everything. Okay, but I was able to give it. Now, 4 years later, we're mounting it again. And now the investors came back and said, here, we'll give you that money. We'll give you that. And based on my trust with them, and I could easily say that you lost it, but then I would have to prove it. And I'm not like that anyway. So but now, you know what happened? We thought that script was ready. Now, 4 years later, the playwright and I we're still working on it. It's 100 times better than it was then. So you have to, the darkness of it, you have to find a positive light. That's the only way you're going to survive. So in respective, now you don't know that, I don't know that, but the more we worked on it, the more I realized, damn, this is not ready. Why didn't we see this when we mounted it? My daughter was in it as well. And why didn't we, but that's the process. When I write a script, I'll tell you my process, a screenwriter. When I started writing, after all my journeys, I said, well, I'm going to write. I'm going to start writing. And my friend, a really good actor, really good, very well-known actor, I used to always let him read. I said, can you read my scripts? Can you read my scripts? Can you read my scripts? Can you read scripts? So recently, I said, I have a new one. 2 years later, 20 drafts later, I said, can you read the script? And he goes, oh, God. He goes, this is going to be another Frank Calo thing. I went, no. I said, and he's a good friend of mine. I said, no, it's not. I said, he goes, well, I go, Dayton. I said, here's the thing. When I first started writing, you know what I was looking for? And I'll be honest with you, approval. I didn't care if he liked the script or not, or the person who was reading it. At that time, I wanted somebody to say, oh, wow, you're the next Quentin Tarantino. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. And I realized I was looking for the approval. But once I knocked that shit out and got down to the craft of it, then that's where the writing actually started. When I write a first draft, I know it's not my last draft. Your first draft, somebody says, oh, I did this in 3 days. Well, it looks like it. It looks like it. But the thing is, when I look at my first draft, I reread it, I throw it up. I go, oh my God, who wrote this shit? And I have a co-writer. Him and I have been working together for 20 years, very successful. And I give him my draft. I said, here's a draft we're talking about. And I call him, I said, what did you think? And that little bug in my saying, looking for approval, he goes, well, it's going to need work. It's going to I would say about a year. I'm going, oh, fuck, a year? But we do it. You go through the process, 10 drafts, 30 drafts. And eventually, that script, the trick to screenwriting, in my point of view, is eventually, after all that work, and you feel it's working, sometimes you realize it's not working, you throw it away, but you realize it's working, you start listening to it. The script's going to tell you where it wants to go. And the people who don't listen to it or impose or want to manipulate it, it doesn't work. You got to listen to it. And I learned that from editing. Editing was the most important thing. I love the editing stage now. When I was a student, it was production, shooting on set. When I got older in production, it was pre-production. Now it's editing. I'll shoot what I have on a coverage or whatever it is. I'll take it to the edit room, and then you put the rough draft together. You still have the slate. You still have the grip going there like this. You know, and you had someone drinking there, and the actor's going like, oh. And I'm looking at that and saying, how the hell am I going to get out of this? You have that in your, I want to throw up. But then you start working, stripping it away, and then the same theory. When I know that movie is ready, because it's telling me where it wants to go. And I went in a couple of times with original thoughts. By the time we finished editing process, it was like 9 months, 10 months. It took its own story. But I allowed it to happen. But you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to trust it. It doesn't always work that way, but learn how to listen to it. And that's where I believe that goes. Anybody else? Yes, you have a question? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Sort of on like working with actors, and what kind of methods or techniques that you use to kind of get on the same level, the same vision, like if they're not giving you what you want, and obviously like.
Are you in production? Hypothetically, is it in production? Are you just casting, or what state?
Yeah, in production, like you've done the casting, you've done the rehearsal, but then like you get to on set and you're like, it's not quite where I'm looking for.
Right. Well, if you have the cloud and you have the studio behind you, or you have the money behind you, the people behind you, like Lord of the Rings. And a lot of people watch Lord of the Rings. Anybody see Lord of the Rings? Vigo, what's his name? Mortensen. He was not originally cast. It was somebody else. And in mid-production, beginning production, Peter Jackson realized the person he had, I'm not going to say who it is, but the person he had was not right. So they brought somebody in. Same thing with Martin Sheen, Apocalypse Now. He wasn't the original choice. It was somebody else, and he said it's not working. When he brought Brando in on Apocalypse Now, he knew him, of course, and he just said, Brando, I have this Coppola said, I have this project, come on down. He didn't know he gained that much weight. So his whole scenes were about Brando, skinny Brando. Brando shows up, so Coppola said, that's where it got so dark, and he was all dressed in black, and he shadowed it, and he going, oh, horror. That's how he came up with it and dealt with it in that way. Because, it's Brando, you know what I'm saying? But he didn't realize that he was that heavy. And there's some actors I would never work with again. And it's a very good trick for a lot of people. Don't think that because you have a star, you always hear somebody, oh, you must have a star. Bullshit. That's my point about cable. That's what cable proved us. We don't need the stars. We don't need that headache. But you got to give respect. You got to give them room. You got to give them room, and yourself room. I had people on sets the actors on set that I was working on a play again at the theater, and I was one of those stupid kids, and I'm directing a play, one-act play, and this actor goes, young actor, Richard Zavalia, and this other kid working against him, and he's like, starts kicking the chair, and I'm like, oh, are you okay? Are you all right? What can we do? And then my mentor, Vinny, came up and said, don't ever do that. He said, leave him alone. Take the attention away from him or her. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. And I did. I learned how to do that. Now, if it's a studio picture and I'm hired and he's hired or the actress is hired, then you got to work it out. Sometimes they don't want to. And you got to, as you're the director, you got to work it through that. I'm lucky in a position where I can choose now. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but at the same time, you got to give them respect too. You got to know that you got to do your homework. You got to know what you're talking about. Never, ever give an actor a line reading. Never go up there and say, oh, say it like this. I was on the set with John Turturro one day. I was AD, and I was on the set with John Turturro, and I had this young director, and I told him, don't do that. Not to John Turturro. And he's going, okay. And he called him Johnny. He goes, Johnny, listen, I want you to say it like this. And he said it. And John said, you know what? Here, get over here, sit down. Here, I'll direct, you say it, and I'll direct you. Now, you want to say it? Say it. And that kid went from here to here on that chair, and he almost cried. And I said, I told you, you can't, but that's a learning stage. It's a mistake that we all make. People think directing is giving line readings, working with actors. Who's the directors here? Who are our directors here? Okay, what is your job as a director? What is your job as a director? Yes, ma'am.
To get the actor in a place where they can kind of take it, like they can work with, like give them.
That's part of it.
I don't want to say their motivation.
That's technique. No. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I mean, I would say I'm a stage director, and I would say I'm the first audience member for the actors, and I'm an advocate for the audiences.
Okay, that's a good point. Yes, ma'am. Well, you're up.
I mean, I'd say it's to be sort of like a manager, like in a business. It's to know the whole story that's being told, so that everyone else can be unified and know their individual stories.
Yes, that's a good point.
Define the subtext.
You were in my last class. The trick here is this: your job as the director is or an actor, or as a writer, is to tell the story. That's your job. And that's what keeps you versatile. Like if I have one script, and if I only have one style, every script I do is going to be that one style. But you tell that story in him and I could do a story, same story. My vision will be different, his vision, and that's okay, that's what we want. But we tell the story. Now, the job is to tell the story. But now don't answer, what is it that the director directs? Anybody? You direct a subtext. And I learned that from Elie Kazan. I was one of his few students that I was a young kid. And again, I'll tell you how I got, Elie Kazan was a famous director back in the 50s. And he did On the Waterfront, East of Eden. He was major director with Brando, James Dean, all these people. And he started teaching a little bit. And I was one of the recruiting those young directors in his living room. It was not like a classroom. It was not like a lot of people, and I loved it. But the things he was saying, I was ready to hear it, but I wasn't ready to execute it yet. But it took me so he says, go out and practice it. And it takes time to learn that. So you direct a subtext. So when I communicate with my actor, to answer your question, I'm dealing with subtext. If I don't want to hear, if I say what the story's about, I don't want to hear a boy meets girl goes over there, he walks over there. That's technique. The actor doesn't want to hear that. You want to go to an actor, pro actor like Dan Lowe, you want to talk about subtext. What is going on? Here's what I think. When you talk to your DP, this scene is gloomy. I want this kind of lighting. I want the subtext of this lighting. Who's dominating? I want her standing here because she's dominating him. You work the subtext of the material, or the scene, or the whole face. It's almost like an actor having a motivation. Your job is to work the subtext, and that's how you communicate with your craft. your crew. Your editors, your sound directors, and I want this sound low, I want this sound here, I want this. I'm not a person that goes, we'll fix it in post. You do everything on set. Because when you get in a post, and if you don't have it, most times you don't have the money to go back and do it. Okay? So you got to make sure, I don't care if everybody says, listen, it's 5 o'clock, let's go. I said, no, I want that insert shot of him, because that's going to help me bounce around the scene. If I want to cross, people say you can't cross the line. I can cross the line, and I'll prove it to you. I have 2 scenes here. Now, crossing the line means that I can't shoot over there once I'm setting up here on a 180, right? So I'll shoot over there, and they go, oh, you're crossing the line. Yeah, well, watch this. Pick up that coffee shot. Boom, I'm shooting that. Once he picks it, put it in your mouth, boom, I cross the line. Put it back down. Boom, I'm crossing back. You find a way. I had an editor come up to me, a very professional. She got stuck on a car scene. She didn't know how to get out of the scene. The actress was supposed to get out of the car and go into the next scene, but it just didn't work, straightforward, literally. So I went in and I said, what's the problem? She said, I can't get out of the scene. And I saw the actor close the door, but it was a slam. It was a slam. I said, use the sound. The crash, the door closing, boom, boom, out of the scene. What we learn in film school, filmmaking, sight and sound. That's what you work with. When you go into film school and you do your first semester, you're probably not going to shoot a film with dialogue. You're going to tell a story with subtext without sound, black and white. Okay, and then you graduate into sound. Sound is so important. Sound is so important. Music is so important. And if you ever seen a film that's rough cut and it's done and it feels like it's flat and you add the right music for it, whoa. and like Chariots of Fire, you know, that they become classic. Sometimes people remember the song more than the movie. Okay, so those are the type of things. Dan, you had a question.
Two things. One, very practical question. Is there an app or a website where young directors and producers to go to where they will find out what states are giving them incentives to come there?
Yes,
to
yes.
shoot?
That's a good question.
Have you ever adjusted
Yes.
a script to a state where you could get?
Exactly right. The best things in the United States, how that all developed is that during the 80s, we did not have tax incentives in each state. Canada did. So all the productions were going to Canada at the time. We had NABIT at the time. We had the Union Cruise and stuff like that. So then finally we had a president that came in and said, well, let's start creating tax incentives to bring Hollywood was the last state in the country until just recently to add tax incentives because they thought they were Hollywood, we don't need it, we need this. But then you go out independently to other states, the tax incentives is what saved us. And yes, you go to the film commissioner. First thing I do if I'm in a state, whatever state I am, I look up the film commissioner's office. Okay. Now I go to the film commissioner's office, and they'll tell you what's going on. They'll help you. Where am I going to look? Especially if you're in a strange land, they'll help you with the locations. They'll help you with them if they're set up right, and they're willing to help you. They'll tell you. I use that all the time. Every day I'm looking at that because they put out. It's called Entertainment Partners, a tax incentive program. Get on that newsletter because it tells you, it gives you a weekly what's changing on the tax incentive. So you get 40% back on what you're bringing to that state. So if think of it this way, my budget is $10 million, and I'm getting 40% back on the subtotal, I always say, well, I'm not going to get 100% because they're going to find something that's not going to work. So I calculate 80, 75%. So now my budget is $13 million. And that money comes to you at the end, before you finish shooting. It comes at the end, but trust me, it's finite. You have to have your accountant team, and your production accountant team sets all the books up, and they submit it to the state. You have nothing to do with it after that. They have their own CPAs. They'll calculate, and the check comes back to you, to the production company, to do whatever you want with. I use it to help with festivals. I use it to help promote it. You use it for that. And now I just learned back in the day, everybody started doing that. Now the top branches were New York, Louisiana, Atlanta. I just learned today or this week, Louisiana is getting rid of their tax incentive. And that's a bad thing because they bring $6 million into the business. I was there in Jersey when I used to shoot a lot. I live in New York City. I used to shoot a lot in New Jersey because I loved shooting in Jersey. And they were offering, and I saw the film commissioner work their asses off for years, building that program up, inviting us down there, treating us out. But they were finding locations. They were finding this for us. Because you got to understand, when I bring a production to that state or that city, I'm the gas station, the restaurant, the meals, the bathrooms, everything I'm bringing, salary. And you want to try and hire locally. So because they won't, if it's outside that state, if I bring you in, you're from New York, I say, oh, she's from New York, they're not going to count that. So you try and hire her locally. Or you get the star, what you do with actors with that, you set up a separate LLC for them so they can report in that state. But what happened is that then Governor Christie came in, power, and he wiped it all out in Jersey. He said, we don't need this, I'm going to put this money into a medical fund. Guess where that medical fund was? Right here. You know, and not nothing political, I'm just saying that's what he did with it. And the thing is, and what happened, they had this TV show, Damages. They had studios built. They had production houses built. They had sound stages built. They had crews. They were great. All went away with a stroke of a pen. So what the big studios, they said, fuck it. We moved to Canada. They took Damages to Canada. They took TV shows back to New York. They took it to Louisiana. Then Louisiana and Atlanta came big into that. And that's how they came up. I was in Lionsgate at the time. I was executive of Lionsgate. I was there when Tyler Perry was courting the setting up the stage in Atlantic City. And of course he was Tyler Perry, but he wasn't Tyler Perry as he is now. He was Tyler Perry coming up. And they financed that. And what he did with it, and he got the tax and stuff, and now it's brilliant what he did. It's brilliant what he did, but it can go away. So you have to look where you're going to stay. Now to adjust your production to that. Now if I have a script and it doesn't fit there, you don't put a circle in a square. You know, I'm not going to shoot there because it doesn't fit there. Now, and you can say you shoot everything inside. I can't You know, yes, if I'm shooting everything inside, I might as well do it here. You know what I'm saying? So it's that kind of a thing. So I have room for two more questions. Two more questions. Anybody? Anybody? Yes, sir. Yeah, did I answer your question, Dan? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
As a first-time feature director, when should I get an agent?
You don't have one? Well, you're a little late, brother. You know what I'm saying? No, it's very important. As a director, agent as a director, or as a writer, actor? Okay, as a director. It's very important to get an agent, but as more so for actor, writer, and director, and ADs too. They have agents for crew members too. I think with your film, I think if you submit it to, don't look for CAA or William Morris, because even as an actor, it's common sense. Is if I'm CAA, I'm a big agency, and I have Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott, Meryl Streep, and I'm going to cater to them first. That's my money. That's my money. I mean, that's as an agent. So I'm now going to go to the smaller people, and you may get lost in that shuffle. So look for an agency who's middle-sized, that's going to be out there for you, and then submit your work. I think you would probably have no problem. Now, I say that carefully. I say that very carefully, because that's not true either. But the thing is, you just got to keep submitting to them. But don't go for unless you have a strong connection. My agency, and this is, I'll finish up with this because we got to get going because they have another class. But I was with UTA as a director and writer, and Andrew Canava he's now the top of the literary department of UTA. He's part of the CEO, and he took me under his wing. He was the one who found the script for American Beauty, and I read the first script for American Beauty. I was involved with Monsters Ball. I read the first script of Monster Ball, and the thing is, when he took me under his wing, and then one time I had a script, and I said, Andrew, I'm coming to California. It's a gang movie. He goes, all right, come on, when you're visiting, come on out. I said, yeah, I have the best gang movie in the world. I wrote it, I have the best gang movie in the world. I walk in his office, and I go, here's the gang, and it was not computers. I put down a script, and he goes, Frank, you see that pile of scripts over there? And there was a pile on his desk like this. He goes, they're all gang movies. I'm like, oh, shit, And then what happened was, again, good or bad, there's nothing wrong about good or bad, they said, I wanted to direct this movie called Angel Smiles I wrote. And Morgan Freeman was all, they got Morgan Freeman, everybody's involved with it. And then they said, Frank, we don't want you to direct it. And my agent was saying, please, just take it as a stepping stool. We'll get you as a writer. We'll get you the great fee. We'll get you in the door. And I learned that from, okay, to accept that. So I said, okay, now who are you going to get to direct it? Now I'm thinking Martin Scorsese. I'm thinking somebody else. And they brought in this young kid who did a stupid little video about living in a project. First video shot on film shot on video. Did it with his credit card, $60,000, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's the hottest thing in town." And I said, "No way!" I literally said to him, "No way!" I said, "I'm better than that guy." I said, "I thought you were going to give me Martin Scorsese." And they said, "No, Frank, this is a deal breaker." I said, "No way!" And they cut me out. They let me go. But I stood my ground. I was not going to let that little kid come in and do that, because I could do that. I said, don't get me a director. Give me a director that's better than me, or I can learn from. Don't give me somebody I'm going to be fucking saying, no, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. That was it good or bad? That's not the question. I just stood up for myself. And now we're on talking. Years later, we talk all the time, but they cut me out. They cut me loose. Right, from their point of view, rightfully so. That kid, never heard of him again. Never, ever heard of him again. And I never brought up to Andrew, but now he's big and stuff like that. But go out there and find him. UTA is a good choice. UTA is another good choice. A Gersh agency, another good choice. They branched out to departments. They have directing, writing, and they'll help package. So you go to a UTA, they'll say, listen, we got Dan Loria. Okay, I'll take Dan. We got so-and-so. We got so-and-so. So now in their theory, we got the actor, we got the director, and you got the writer, you got whatever. And now all that fee is not only one person, it's 3 times or 5 times. So they help package it if they like you. Sometimes you still need to know somebody, to get to the door. And the trick about the studios, when you submit your script, they have people there just to say no. People they're just working themselves up in the studio systems as well. But their job is to say no, 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 no. But you got to get through that door somehow through people that you know and stuff like that. Like Dan introduced me to this wonderful writer at NCIS, Scott Williams. And I would never got to Scott. But Dan said, let's Frank, come on over and we'll have dinner. And we all went there and we hit it off. Did we work together yet? No. But we're beginning of a friendship. But he's in his own mindset. He may not have a position to hire me. Not that I wanted him to hire me anyway. I wanted it for my daughter. So the thing is, but you know, it depends on where they're at. You know, so but keep pounding the doors. But don't. I think you got a good shot. I really do. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. And give me a good question. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Regional casting companies. What do people look for in that region of the South or Northeast? What makes them better than the other casting?
Do your homework. It's like if you're going to buy a house, you're not going to just buy it. You know, you're going to look at it. You're going to say, does this square footage fit? Is it a septic tank? Is it this? Is that? Do your homework. Who's the previous buyer? Who is this? What kind of damage is there? What's the insurance on? What's the property tax? You know, do your homework, people. Do your homework, and you may get there, and the casting director will say, "Yeah, I'll take you in a second," and then you're lost in the shuffle. If you feel that, then it's possibly happening. Trust your instinct and common sense, and then don't be afraid to go to the next one, or try them out, but do a limited contract, and then if that doesn't work, then you move to somebody else. Don't get yourself locked into it unless they're really working for you. You want people around you who's going to work with you or for you, especially as an actor, director, or writer, as an agent. And that's their job. I tell my daughter all the time, she has an agent. And she goes, what should I do? I said, talk to your agent. Get that agent working. Don't let the agent say, well, we didn't get the call back today, but I said, find out why. He's there to tell you. She's there to tell you. Listen, man, we got to work on this. We got to work on. That's the people you want to work with. She got lost in a big agency one time. They had every voiceover actor in the world. She got lost in it, and they never talked to her, always or email. And then we got her out of that, and now she has an agent who says, yes, I think we could do this for you. I think we could do that for you, and she feels better. She feels someone respects her work. That's what you want. That's what I would look for. All right. All right, God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Okay.